As a registered nurse, wife, and mother, Helen Eimers was feeling defeated trying to juggle shift work and being the wife and mother she truly wanted to be. She dove headfirst into beefing up her resume and getting her case management certification, and after several dead-end job applications, she landed a job as a telephonic case manager working remotely from home. While working remotely as a case manager, she longed for the opportunity to help others on a deeper, more personal level. She started her side hustle building her business as a yoga instructor, health and wellness coach, and creator of the Back to Bliss Back Pain Protocol. Today, Helen shares with us how she successfully balances her work, family, and business, what it takes to build a successful business, and lessons learned on the journey.
Welcome to the Stay at Home Nurse Podcast. I'm your host, Deanna Cooper Gillingham. For over 25 years, I've strived to use my nurse credentials to find work that fit my lifestyle. Whether it was raising my 4 children and 3 fur babies, traveling the world, or moving to Mexico and living on the Caribbean Sea. Sometimes I succeeded and sometimes I failed, but I always learned from the experience. Now, I want to help you by sharing what worked and what didn't work. There are so many opportunities out there for nurses today. The Stay at Home Nurse Podcast will inspire and equip you to have a nursing career that is meaningful and supports your lifestyle. Now let's get started.
Hello, today we have a special guest for you, Helen Eimers, and Helen is building a side hustle while she's working and raising a family. So that's what we're going to talk about today. I'm really excited to hit on this topic because I think it's something that so many people are curious about and what does it look like behind the scenes, and so let's dive in and let's start off with Helen. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Who are you? Where do you live? And what do you do?
Hey, so good to be here. Thank you. My name is Helen Eimers and I live in central South Dakota. I've been a nurse since 2008, so 12 years, which is kind of crazy. And I started my nursing career in a small town hospital, which was a wonderful experience. You kind of got to do everything from trauma room to deliver babies to geriatrics. So I learned a great deal there. And then I spent 2 years, in a federal job working for Indian Health Services. So I have 3 children and a husband. We love to spend time on the Missouri River in the summer. And as I started to have my children, I realized that shift work was really hard. And just, even the 8 to 5 clinic job and having to drive 70 miles. And so I just knew that I wanted something different.
So when you said you wanted something different, did you have an idea of where you wanted to go, or did you just start looking and seeing what opportunities were out there?
Not necessarily. I had kind of had a bug in my ear from somewhere that there were these things called case managers, and they were nurses that could actually work from home, and that nursing wasn't always at the bedside and 12-hour shifts, which I love the bedside and I, didn't mind the 12-hour shifts, but with the family, it just wasn't ideal. And so I literally got on the good old Google and work from home nurse, and just searched away. And I applied and applied and applied. And it was really a bit disheartening because being from a small town, you don't get rejected for jobs. You're like, oh, you want to wash dishes? You want a waitress at the local restaurant? Sure, you're hired. Like, start yesterday. So as I started to submit my resume and apply for these jobs, and it was just cricket. So it was really disheartening. And I really started to then dig into, okay, what do I need to do to get there? So I really worked hard and was patiently persistent with a couple of companies and just asked them, what does it take to get hired by your company? And that's when I started to, on my own, pursue my CCMC, my case management certification, and just really kind of build my resume for more case management type positions. So it was about 2 years, and a lot of my friends and family were like, they don't want to hire you. Like, you're crazy. And I just kind of kept, about every 3 to 6 months, I'd follow up and kind of keep working on what it took for my CCMC. And a lot of companies in case management as a nurse, they want you to have experience. So it's really hard to get experience when companies don't hire you if you don't have any experience. So that was kind of my journey as a transition to a non-traditional nurse. And so in 2014, I started working for a company who does telephonic case management. And I still work for them. About a year ago, I did cut back my hours. So I'm 4 days a week there while I work to build my side hustle, which I've kind of been building, I feel like, all my life. So
I love that. A couple things before we move on is, well, one really important thing is I really like what you said about so many of us nurses, if you're experienced, they need you. We hear there's a nursing shortage, but then we hear your nurses can't get jobs. And I think the sweet spot is experienced nurses are so used to walking into a hospital and getting a job. But when you want something that's more competitive, it's a culture shock. It's like, what do you mean you didn't hire me? I'm used to putting an application in and them saying, can you start tomorrow? And I'm like, no, I got to give them 2 weeks notice where I'm at. And then they want 4 weeks notice because they can't replace you. And we're so used to that when we go for a more competitive job, it's like a shock for us. So I love how you didn't just say, well, nobody wants me, and didn't listen to your family. And instead said, what can I do to become the person or the nurse that they want? And so you kind of looked at it in a different way. Instead of feeling rejected, you felt like, okay, I can do this. What do they want? So I just wanted to kind of point that out because I think that makes you special. And that's why you got hired, because you did something. You didn't do what everybody else was doing. You did something a little different. And starting a side hustle is also something a little different. So you got this work from home job. You thought that's what you wanted. What made you decide that you wanted to actually pull back on your hours and start a side hustle?
yeah, that was a really hard decision to actually pull back on my hours, because for years I've been doing health and wellness coaching, even dating as far back to high school, when I remember a mother coming and asking me if I would help kind of train and get her daughter in shape, because she needed some help with some healthy food options and some exercise. So I feel like my passion to help others, whether it's with life, health, or wellness, has just really been ingrained with me for a long time. And so I've been doing it all this time on the side. And just, I'm kind of the person that's like, I'm never bored because I always have these projects. And I've just always got something like, oh, well, I could do this. And people are like, you're crazy, just stop. But I love helping others. And so that's really my passion. And so to make the decision to actually like cut down on my, in quotes, real job, that was really, really scary, especially when you have a family that you're providing for. But that's why I had to do it, because I'm not Superwoman. I try to be and I aspire, but you can't do it all. And even if you don't have a side hustle and, 2 or 3 jobs and 2 or 3 kids, like nobody can do it all. So you just have to kind of give and take where it works for you. So my side hustle, I was in some really hard places in my life in the past. And I really think it's important, all of my coaching really comes deep within me sharing my story and then helping other people. And when people share their story, for example, I went through infertility, and I've, lost my mom at a very young age, and I've struggled with my weight my whole life. And I had a really debilitating back injury. Those are all things that when I authentically shared my story, and I don't know if you ever read any books by Brene Brown. She talks about vulnerability. She's a wonderful author, but just sharing that story naturally. And people just like, they come to you and they're like, oh, like I had that happen too. And you just don't feel so alone. And you also feel that like, there's people out there that need my help with things like this. So yeah, I've just kind of been coaching for a long time and took the leap of faith to kind of balance it out a little bit to build my personal business and focus on training in that aspect.
So that leads us to the next question, which is, what is your business? You were doing all these different things. How did you really focus on, this is what my business is going to be? What is your business and how did you decide on it?
Good question. So, I still love to cater to a lot of different audiences and niches. What helped me the most is getting a business coach. So, if you're considering kind of branching off on your own or starting your own business, and you're just like, I don't know what to do, having a coach is really vital. Basically, they offer many things, mindset, motivation, organization, kind of help you gather your thoughts. It's like you have all the answers. They just help extract them from you and kind of put the pieces together. So it's really vital, even though some people are like, I can't spend that much on a coach. Investing in yourself and your business is the best thing I've ever done. The hardest, kind of darkest times in my life where I have felt stuck or I have felt like I, maybe wasn't doing enough or wasn't fulfilling my passion are the times in my life where I wasn't learning, where I wasn't growing, where I wasn't investing in myself. I remember graduating from college and I live in a small town. I'm like, I'm going to go work at the hospital there. Like, I don't have to go for my bachelor's. Like, there's no reason. I don't need to get my bachelor's. I'm just going to go work there because I'll be there forever. And I loved it. And then, like, 2 years later, I'm like, oh, there's like a bigger world out there. So I ended up, going back and getting my bachelor's. And so I could build on that. But those times in my life where I thought that I knew it all, because I've been there, and I just thought that I knew it all and that I've got everything I need. Those were the times I struggled the most. So my business right now, to get back to the question, because I can kind of get off tangent a little bit, but my business is Back to Bliss, and I do health and wellness coaching, and I specialize in helping people with acute and chronic back pain. As I mentioned before, I had a pretty debilitating back injury where I literally found myself on the floor with 2 children trying. I couldn't walk. I was on crutches. I lost muscle mass in my leg. 2 doctors said you need surgery, and I'm 29 years old and terrified. And so I started researching and researching and researching, and I just dug myself out of that. I just became the CEO of my own body. I started working on my mindset. Number one, what the body believes you can achieve, or what the mind believes you can achieve, and started working on my mindset, and then movement, a lot of yoga and stretching, and menu, cutting out all the inflammatory foods that were causing that pain and inflammation, really to wreak havoc. So I love learning about my body. I love helping other people learn about their bodies from the inside out, gut health, inflammation. And so my back pain protocol focuses on the 3 M's: mindset, movement, and menu. And I also do, personalized and one-on-one health coaching, health and wellness coaching, as well as life coaching. So I really, I love to teach group accountability, which I've done for several years. But I also love being able to take someone one-on-one and say, what are your goals? What are the problems we need to work with? And where do you want me to take you? And then I can really cater that coaching to their needs with the foundation that I've built. So yeah, I really do a lot of different types of coaching, but I do have my back pain protocol, which is a 7-week protocol, and I work with you one-on-one. We really just, you're going to feel a lot better. You're going to be able to actually live your life and not let pain, run your life. So that's my main focus with my coaching, but also do a lot of other little tangents within that.
And that's really exciting. Again, you've just dropped so many gold nuggets there. When I first got my first business coach, I thought I couldn't afford it. And now I look back and it's like, I couldn't afford not to. Mm-hmm. And, a coach for anything, I think sometimes people get afraid of the word coach because they think, well, I'm just going to pay somebody to talk to me. And it's like, no, you pay them to clarify. It's like, if you're in this sea of, there's just so many options and so many things and so many different directions you can go. And you can't see it all because you're in the middle of it. But then you have somebody kind of on the outside. It's like a lighthouse that guides you and says, no, this is the direction you need to go. You need to get rid of these distractions, focus on this. And when you have this person that's helping you and giving you the next step, sometimes it's just the one next step and then the one next step and the one next step. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I've gotten through this mess of tangled, confusion. And I've gotten here, and you look back and you're like, that was the best thing. And it's almost like you get addicted to coaches then, because you're like, oh my gosh, if I can get this far, I, Abby and I were just talking recently. I had a coach that I had who helped me speak because I was the shyest person in my class. I was voted shyest in my graduating class in high school. I couldn't speak in front of one person, let alone doing a podcast or a Facebook Live or anything like that I knew I needed to do to grow my business. And it came up in my feed this last week where I did my first Facebook Live 4 years ago. And it was the most, if you'd look at it, you would just laugh because I'm stumbling on my own words. I couldn't talk. I was so nervous. I was sweaty. I was just trying to get off as fast as I could. And that coach skyrocketed me. Within a month, I was doing Facebook Lives. And I'm like, how did I go from there to doing them in front of people and doing webinars and doing all of these things that I never thought I'd be able to do? So I would just encourage somebody who has any problem to look at somebody who can help you through the problem. And you get your money back 10,000 times. I mean, I just don't know how to explain it. And for somebody who has back pain and they can't get off the floor and they can't take care of their children and they can't go to work, how priceless is it to be able to not have to go through surgery? Because as nurses, we know that once you cut somebody open, it's never the same again. There's scar tissue that develops. There's all types of other issues that you have. So anything that you can do to avoid that, gosh, yeah, it's worth it. And it's probably, when you look at the copays and deductibles of having surgery, the coaching is probably a lot less than that.
Yeah. And I really, in all of my coaching, especially the back pain protocol, my goal is to help people become resourceful so that by the end of the program, by the end of our time together, whether it's the back pain protocol or other coaching, they have the resources, they have the thinking skills to be resourceful so that they can help themselves. Because yes, I love coaching, but it's like I would just want to grow you up from the nest and just let you fly free because everyone is capable of that. And it's you know, I don't want to encourage someone to have to be coached by me for 3 years. That's not the goal. I'm going to get you on your way and you're going to be great. And maybe you'll move on to even a more successful coach than me, because that's the place you're at that point in your life or your business or your journey, your health and wellness journey. So that's really important to me, is teaching people to be resourceful and use the resources I've given them, be able to educate themselves and just move forward with whatever they're working on.
I think that's where that case management comes in too, because I always say as a case manager, we're trying to work ourselves out of a job, and a good coach is trying to work themselves out of a job. I want you to launch. I want you to go and not need me anymore. And if I do my job right, I get you to a place where you don't need me anymore. So, and we do that as a case manager too. We try to train you, empower you, and give you the tools that you need so that you can go on and not keep needing us.
Yes, exactly. And, the comment you made about, having a surgery, there's statistics show that there's a high percentage of people who have surgeries, especially on their back and their spine. There's often a recurrence of pain. I mean, I don't know anyone in this world, over the age of 10 who has never said, oh, my back hurts, even if it's just a little twinge or a tweak or you get up from a chair. We have one spine. And so it's important to take care of. And when you, undergo surgery, which sometimes is necessary. I'm not saying that surgery is not necessary in some points, but if you can kind of heal yourself from the inside out, and I can give you those tools, the results can really be amazing. In my case management position, I manage cases within workers' compensation. And so I work with a lot of patients who have failed back syndrome, post-laminectomy syndrome from a surgery, and they've got recurring pain, chronic pain, disability mindset. So it can be really challenging for me to watch and, try to support them. And so I really just want to help people in that realm of things.
So how do you balance this? You have these injured workers that you're supporting and helping. You have these clients that you're supporting and helping, and you have a family that you're supporting and helping. So how do you balance that? How do you start a side hustle when you have a job that it's not an easy job? Even though you're working from home, you still have to invest a lot in it. It's not a mindless, type of a job. It takes a lot of energy. And you have a family, which you have 3 small children, which also take a lot of energy.
Mm-hmm.
And starting a business is not for the faint of heart. Having a side hustle is a lot of work. So how in the world do you balance all this? What do you do?
So I think the most important thing, which I'm not always 100% at, because I feel no one can be perfect at everything, but the most important thing, and I've listened to your podcast too about, scheduling and being organized and using your planner that you use. It's really important to kind of schedule out your time. Before I had my business coach, while I was building the back pain protocol, and she really got me through that. And she would say, okay, well, what are you going to work on tomorrow? From 2 to, I had this block of time from 2 to 4. What are you going to work on? And I'd say, well, I'm going to work on module 1. She's like, no, like what in module 1? And I'm like, I don't know, like video 3. And she's like, okay, what are you going to do to video 3? Well, I guess I'm going to record it. Okay. Like she just made me narrow it down so much, which I hated her for, but loved her for at the same time. Like a good coach, you will despise at times. Like you will just be like, you're really making me uncomfortable. And that's how you know you have a good coach, which sounds so awful, but
my coach made me cry. So
yeah. Oh yeah. I'm just like, and then, you get to those points when you're being coached and there's times where you just feel defeated. You're like, and then that self-doubt comes in. You're like, I'm not good enough for this. There's no way I can do this. Like, who do I think I am? Like, I can't keep up with her, blah, she's telling me all these things. And so that's normal. So if you're having those thoughts and those feelings and you feel uncomfortable, that's when you're growing. Like that is the magic spot. And that's there's been times in my life when those are the times where I give up or I've stepped back. And the most successful times is when I've kind of pushed forward. There is a balance where you're like, okay, I do have to take a step back. I also think that slowing down to speed up is really important. So slowing down, taking 10 minutes to organize your day, or that time frame from 2 to 4 p.m. to say, here's what I'm going to do. Because for weeks, I didn't get anything done because all I said is, I'm going to work on module 1. Well, I didn't know what that meant. I didn't break that down. I was very unclear. And so being crystal clear, taking a 5-minute time slot to just brain dump. I often get in the habit of listening to audiobooks or podcasts. They're in my ear all the time that I don't allow myself time to like think, right? You probably,
guilty,
you're like,
yeah, guilty. Yeah.
Yeah. But I want to get all this information.
Yes.
And so a really good thing you can do is just shut it off and spend some time with your own thoughts, which people don't like to do, right? Because not everyone has good thoughts and you've got, doubts. And so really working on knowing that you can kind of change your thoughts, you can't change your circumstance, but you can change those thoughts, which then will change the actions and your results. And so slowing down so you can speed up, and also knowing that period or those feelings of being uncomfortable are really what are going to push you to your next limit. So, before I decided to step back to 4 days a week, it wasn't always healthy. I was up late at night. I was up early in the morning, but I was so darn motivated to do what my passion was, which was helping other people get to where they want to be, that I I didn't even understand that I wasn't taking care of myself. Right. And these things seem so simple, right? Like fill your own cup, put your own mask on. And so just sometimes, and that's the point where I'm like, I have to step back. And so I did take a day. So, Mondays are my coaching days. And then I work the other days. I do also, spend time in my office in the evenings, and just being very organized is really key, is what I can say. And being sure to set that side of time, when my kids come home from school, from the time they come home from school to the time they go to bed, that's them, that's their time. I'm not gonna, try not to look at my phone as much, and not, sit down and do any work if I can avoid it, just to kind of get that balance. So those are the things that are really key for me.
So I'm hearing time blocking and knowing what you're going to do before that block of time occurs.
Correct.
So yeah. And that's one of the things that when I start to get disorganized or crazy, or I feel like I'm not making progress, it's because I'm spending too much time when I should be making a decision. So if I say no, I'm going to spend this block of time brain dumping all the different things that need done and then putting them in order of, well, I can't do this until I do this, and I can't do this until I do this, and then getting some sense of, oh, okay, here's what I need to do. Step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then when you do that, you're not wasting your time. If you only have a 2-hour block, you're not wasting an hour and a half trying to figure out what to do. Like you said, your coach asked you, what are you going to do? And she wanted to know exactly what that was, not this theoretical, I'm going to work on module 1, but what does that mean? And so now when you sit down, you actually know I'm outlining or I'm recording or whatever you're doing. And I can't stress the importance enough of, no matter how many times we've done something successfully, sometimes we just need that other person. And sometimes we need that quiet time. And it's knowing what you need. Is it getting too much information and I need to step back and stop getting information and start implementing? Do I need another set of eyes? What do I need right now? What's holding me back? So you gave so much information right there. One other thing I want to just kind of expound on was when you talked about, you got up early and you were working late. If you had so much energy in your voice though, when you were talking about how excited you were about starting this program. And that's one thing I see across all successful entrepreneurs is they're so excited about working on their business that it's like wild horses can't drag them away. They're getting up early, which they would never do, or they're staying up late, which they would never do, or they're giving up, something on a Saturday that they would rather normally never not do because they have this overwhelming desire to create this thing that they know is going to help other people, which it sounds a lot like you were doing.
Yeah, it really find your passion, and that to feel passionate is to feel alive. That is one of my favorite sayings. It's like if you're not, passionate about learning the next thing, or, even something as simple, which is hard with this, pandemic now, like, you're passionate about going to, your friend's birthday party next week, you're find something to get excited about. Like there's so much joy in that. And again, the times in my life where I've struggled the most has just been like, I'm fine where I'm at, I'm smart enough, don't need to do that, and it's just really, dragged me down. So yeah, time blocking, being really clear about what you're doing. Another thing too is in the summers, our family, takes our camper and moves it 10 miles from our house right next to the river. And so we have the best summers ever. We're at the beach. I can sometimes do some work from the camper, and I spend half my time, in the office. But so it's really hard for me to commit because I'm like, well, what if I want to go out on my paddleboard? And so it's just also having boundaries, because which again I'm not 100%. No one ever is, but it's hard because I work from home. My family and friends know that. So sometimes I feel like even, when I quote my real job, not that my coaching isn't a real job, but you just, they're like, oh, well, Helen could do this because like she doesn't really work.
Yeah, she's home all day. She can watch her kids when they're sick and can't go to school.
Yes. So setting boundaries, and I feel like for so long I got hung up on like I was too scared to commit to this, 2 hours of time frame, because what if I want to do something else? Well, kind of schedule your day for that. It's like, okay, sometime today you need to get this work done. So you need to sacrifice, to do that. I also got hung up on things like, oh, I just need the perfect planner to be able to write down what time of day I'm going to do this. And like, it's just like trying to find the perfect things to organize your day. All you need is a piece of paper. So I just encourage people not to get hung up on the little things. And part of that is, I don't like to say I'm a procrastinator because I'm always busy and working hard, but I find myself filling time. Like if I have a deadline to do, I'll be like cleaning my house or, cooking. And it's not that I'm not doing anything.
Gosh, that is like so me.
Yeah. It's not that I'm not doing anything. And I know, I feel like nurses are like that too. Like they're busy. They're always like getting stuff done. But I'm like, well, it's easier in my mind because this is, like a cathartic thing, cleaning my house, than having to, write this protocol or make this video or do this outline. And so, I know that that's my weakness. And so part of that is being super self-aware, which I never used to be. But now, there was a time in my marriage where my husband's like, I just can't talk to you because you are defensive about everything. And that was like a huge, like, wow, like I didn't even know. It's that self-awareness. And until we can become aware of that, whether we realize it ourselves or typically somebody that loves you enough will point it out. And it may not seem like love at first because you're like, how could you think or say that I'm like that? But just being really self-aware. So I'm very self-aware that I really fill my time with like cleaning and cooking and doing things for my family or other people's so that I don't have to do work that's in quotes hard in my mind. So that's huge
it's
too.
easy to wash the dishes. It's much harder to outline your next chapter. And that's what I found. So yes, when Abby knows when he sees me like cleaning, he's like, what are you avoiding doing right now? Because the deal was I would get a housekeeper so that I could have more free time to work. And so there's no reason for me to do that because Sonia will be there tomorrow and she will do it. So why are you doing that? Oh, I just no. What are you avoiding doing? And that's the question. It's like, oh, okay, yes, I am avoiding something. So yeah, and once you get to know yourself, you get to learn these things. So, I was the big person who growing up thought self-help was like the stupidest thing, like that whole section of the bookstore, I would laugh. And now I'm like, oh, I wish I would have known this earlier, just understanding me and why I do the things I do. I see your bookshelf right now.
Yes, I'm showing Deanna lots of my self-help books. And, a lot of people think you're kind of wonky, and I used to I'm like, you're crazy, even eating healthy. I was like, I would literally, my coworkers would be on a diet trying to eat healthy, and I would take my pizza and sit next to them and just shove it in their face. So I am the biggest hypocrite you've ever met. And I'm so thankful that I, can get over that and, like forgive myself and be like, okay, that wasn't very nice. And I want to be a different person. And when you change to a different person, it's really hard. It's really uncomfortable for you. It's probably more uncomfortable for you to see the reactions of the people around you because they're like, you're not who I married. You're not who my friend is. Like, I mean, even my mom one time, she's like, is that is that really you?
I've gone through that. Yes.
so it's just, being just, please, just if you do anything in your life, just love yourself because that's where it all starts. You can't honestly do anything
that
without
really
that.
is. Yes, it really is. And when I went through my divorce, that's the one thing I had to learn was before I got in another relationship, I had to learn to love myself because how can I be somebody that somebody else can love if I can't love myself? And that was like the key to everything. And another key is something that you have brought up several times. So I really kind of want to like point this out several times during this interview. You've mentioned uncomfortable. And I truly believe we have to be we have to learn to be comfortable being uncomfortable because that's where all the magic happens. And, I use this as my example story of when I had to, when I was in labor and delivery, I was known for not doing babies. The place that I started my career at, we had nursery in every delivery. I never had to do a baby. When the babies came out, they scared me. Like I had 4 kids, but they scared me. They came out, they were floppy, they were crying, they were wet, they were white, they were pale as could be, and they scared me. And I got a job at another hospital and they're like, well, okay, that's fine to start, but you have to learn. Okay. Yeah. And when I did, I'm like, oh, this is, you do your first couple, I'm like, this is easy. And the same thing when I had to scrub into the OR, it's like, oh my gosh, this is the scariest thing ever. And then you do it and you're like, okay. And so I started learning, like, I actually like these things that I didn't think I was going to like and I was too afraid to do. So maybe I need to try a few other things that I'm too afraid to do and I'm too uncomfortable to do and get used to being uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we spend a lot of time talking ourselves. We spend a lot of time creating stories in our
Yes.
mind. Like, well, like that's scary. I'm never going to do that.
Yeah.
That is ridiculous.
If I go into
And
the OR, the doctor's going to throw an instrument across the room. I'm going to cry. I'm going to get fired. I'm going to break the sterile field and everybody's going to die. And it didn't happen.
yeah. And those stories become real. They become real to us in how we talk to ourselves, how we talk to others. I remember another great tip I can recommend is see a licensed counselor. Like we all need help. This is a hard world we live in. And I honestly didn't get counseling till probably about 2 or 3 years ago. And it was pretty life changing. But I remember telling, she made me uncomfortable too, like these long silences, like, oh, just say something, And so she made you talk. She made you sit with your feelings and be uncomfortable, which none of us, I feel, in this world, um, easily, at first anyway, like can sit with our feelings. That's why we consume so much social media. We're watching TV. We're like staying busy, busy, busy all the time. Um, but I said, what did I say to her one time? I said, well, I'm really hard to live with. And she's like, well, who told you that? And I'm like, my husband. And and my husband's kind of a comedy guy. So he would be like, I could see him going up and doing stand-up comedy and I'm the wife, blah blah blah. And so you have to have tough skin because it's like, okay, well, he's just doing his comedy skit. But I had believed that. I'm like, well, I'm really hard to live with. Like I have about once a year I have a midlife crisis and I want to try something new and I'm a dreamer and that makes me really hard to live with. And she's like, well, who told you that? Like, and she revealed that like that's one of the stories, that I've all my life, like, well, I'm just kind of a hard person to be around. So, just being aware of those stories
Yeah.
that you,
And when we tell the stories to ourselves, we believe them and then we make them
oh,
come true.
yeah.
And so if we start telling ourselves other stories like, hey, I'm a pretty great wife and I'm a great mom and I'm a great worker, and you start telling yourself other stories, then you start looking for ways to prove them true instead of proving the opposite true. And I think that's what you did when you started your business, when you were all of a sudden, I'm a great nurse. Why isn't anybody hiring me? Well, I can be a better nurse because a great nurse would find out why she's not getting hired. And then a great nurse would take the actions that she needs to get this job. And then a great nurse, somebody who is a great coach would be able to help her people by creating these modules and making it easy for them. So you start telling yourself these stories and then all of a sudden they start coming true. And they're so much better than the negative stories that we tell ourselves.
Yes, for sure. And, another thing too is so many times, and I actually just told my husband this early this morning. It was like 1 a.m. and I'm starting an accountability group to kick off 2021 for a group of women. And I said, you know what I pride myself on? I said, last week I didn't even really know I was going to do this group. And it's not that I'm not being authentic, but it's like, people will ask me things or ask them to help them. And I'm like, I don't know the answer, but I will help you. And you kind of like, you figure it out, just like someone's like, oh, well, can you get this to me? Or have you ever done coaching like this? And I'm like, nope, but I can. It's like, again, it's not me being inauthentic. It's a little kind of mix of like fake it till you make it. Like, yeah, of course I can do that. And then you figure it out. So if you really want to go for something and you really want to go to that next level, and I use tons of resources. It's not that I'm just like, I'm learning and I'm teaching myself and I'm helping my clients. And there's definitely like referrals. Like I refer out to so many people. I refer, like this is a great book. You should check out this, or you should listen to this podcast, or this person could actually benefit you more if she were to coach you. But it's just kind of pushing yourself to the end of your comfort level and, seeing how far you can go and how far you can help people. If that's, truly sounds passionate to you when someone brings it up to your attention.
And that's, again, bringing up that word again, the comfort. And and that's one of the things that I was so afraid when starting my own business. And it was, what if somebody brings me a problem that I can't solve for them? And then you learn you don't need to be able to solve all the problems of the world, especially in that one instance. So you're smart. You can go out and you can either find the answer for them, or you can lead them to the person who has the answer. And that was one of the things when, I was so afraid. I thought you have to know everything before you can help other people. It's like, no, you just need to know what you need to know to help them to get to where they need to be. You don't have to be God. You don't have to know everything in the universe. You don't have to have all the answers. And so we have covered so much. In fact, I had these little sticky notes all over of all the questions I wanted to ask you. And just in our conversation, most of them have been answered. So that's really cool. But one thing that I didn't get answered was, what is the best thing about having a side hustle? Because if you are going to work as much as you're working and have a family and decide that you want to continue to have a side hustle, there has to be something really good about it. So what is the best thing about having a side hustle? We know what's good about having a job. You get a check, and we know what's good about having a family because we just love our kids. But what is good about having a side hustle?
Well, for me, having a side hustle really helps me learn and grow as a person, and it keeps me alive inside. I mean, of course, my kids and my family, fuel that fire, but you just kind of need to have that passion in your life, whatever it may be. And that's huge for me. There's been years and hours that like I'm probably making pennies to the hours. Like, I'm not, what it's like building a business from the bottom up and being in the trenches, and it's not all about the glory. And so just having that, fulfilling that passion to help others is just so innate in me. And it just gives me goosebumps, when you get messages from clients that, something positive has changed in their life, or that they've finally hit this milestone that they've been working to get. That's really where my goal in life is to make enough money to give half of it back to people. I just want to give. And so it's scary to set goals like that. But I just, that's what we're here on earth to do, is to help other people. So any way I can do that it warms my heart.
I absolutely love that. Again, it warms my heart to hear you say that. When people come to me and say, how can I make money fast? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know how to make money fast.
Yeah, we're like making 10 cents an hour over here.
Yeah, if I did, I would like have a lot more of it. But one of my goals when I started was I couldn't give to a family who I wanted to give to. I just didn't have anything. You can't give from an empty cup, but you can give from a full cup. So I wanted to be able to fill my cup so that I could give from the abundance. And I can now do that. And it makes me so happy. So I can see where we are like, we share the same goals. It's like we share a heart of the compassion of wanting to help others. A famous quote that gets me through is by Zig Ziglar, you can get everything you want in life if you help enough other people get what they want. And that has been my motto from day one when I started my business, is just give to people from your heart. And I don't mean you give everybody everything for free, because obviously you wouldn't have a business if you did, but that has to be your number one motivating goal, is to help others. And if you help enough other people, you will succeed. And so, there is no magic bullet. There is no, I'm going to do this because I'm going to be rich in a month or a year. When you first start, yes, you're making pennies, or you might even be giving money, because if you have to get a coach and you have to build a website and you have to, get an editor for your book and all this stuff, you're actually like paying to have a side hustle.
Yeah. Or you're like, sign up for my group. Yeah. I'll give you a free water bottle.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden things start to turn, because you keep pouring into other people's lives and you keep helping them. And then the word spreads and people are like, oh, you need to go see Helen because she can help you. Mm-hmm. And then it all comes back. And then from your abundance, you're able to help others. So I love that. I think that is like the perfect way to end this podcast, because it really shows why you're doing exactly what you're doing. And I'm convinced that you're going to be blessed beyond measure just for all the help that you're giving to everybody else, including your family. And you're still spending time with your kids. You're loving on them, and you're working so that you can support them. And you're working this side business so that you can help people, so that they don't need surgery, so they don't have to be somebody who's crippled for life or has problems for life because of a surgery that they maybe didn't even need.
Yeah. And yeah, it's just, and as to all the entrepreneurs out there, especially if you're a nurse or honestly any entrepreneur, it's being an entrepreneur, it's not a get rich quick thing, right? But I do feel, and I'm having to learn this and my coach helped me, but you do need to know your worth because, those are hard conversations to have. Like, oh my gosh, I'm charging someone this amount. Like they're never gonna do that. They're never gonna, want to pay me that money for that. Who am I? So it comes back to that self-doubt. And if you're struggling with knowing how much your services are worth, get a coach for sure, because you could sell yourself short for years. And again, there's a difference between, being authentic and giving and other people taking advantage of you.
Right. And one thing that we learned really quickly is that when people pay what something is worth, they value it for what it's worth. But when you give it away for free, it's worth what they paid for, which is nothing. So,
Yes.
I have given things away to people and, like if I give them a course, I can see that they never opened it. And, we send them free things and emails and we can see how much they open, how many they download. And it's amazing that, and we do the same thing. I'm guilty. I'm so guilty of that. If, somebody gives me a free download, it's like, okay, let me put it over here on my computer. I might get to it later. But if I paid for it, be sure I'm going to open it up and I'm going to look at it.
Exactly.
So, okay. Well, we touched on so many things. You do a lot, and I'd love to maybe talk on another podcast episode about some other things that you do, like you're working from home, because I know that's a big interest to a lot of people. So maybe this year, this is going to be our second year coming up of the podcast. So I'm going to be inviting a lot of our first-time guests on to get a recap and talk about what else they do, because we are multidimensional. We're not just doing this one thing. And I want people to see how all the different sides of us and not just the one side. So it's been a great conversation and I'm hoping that we can do this again. Anything final that we missed on? Do you have anything that you want to tell anybody? How can people get a hold of you? We're going to have everything in the show notes, but anything that I'm missing?
Well, if you ever come through Central South Dakota, I also teach local yoga classes. So, and in the summer on the Missouri River, I do paddleboard yoga. So it's so much fun. I love my time on and near the river and my outdoor yoga classes in the summer. So I also have a passion for that, which I incorporate into my back pain protocol. A lot of my yoga classes work on adding space in the spine and really adding a lot of length and space so that you can decrease some of that compression on your back. But I do have a website. It's www.heleneimers.com. That's HELENEIMERS.com. And you can go ahead and go on there to contact me. Also, you can check out the information about my back pain protocol on there as well. And I'm also on Facebook, mostly is where I hang out on social. And you can find me at Helen Eimers is my personal page, or at Helen Eimers B2B, HELENEIMERS B2B. That's on Facebook, and that's my Back to Bliss business page. So you can see all my yoga classes as well as any, promotions I do or information about back pain protocol when I'm touching on that. So I really had a great time talking with you. And if anyone out there is struggling or knows someone struggling specifically from back pain and really wants to self-heal from the inside out, or if you're just, needing a personal health and wellness coach or life coach in any aspect, feel free to reach out to me. I'd love to chat.
Thank you. Definitely take Helen up on those offers. We're going to have all the information in the show notes in case you missed it, or you can just rewind and take the notes and write it down. But thank you again, Helen. I've really enjoyed this conversation. I'm glad we finally got to make it happen.
Yes. Thanks, Deanna.
I really enjoyed getting to know Helen during this interview. She dropped so many gold nuggets. You might want to go back and listen again. If you enjoyed this podcast episode, I hope you will leave it a rating and review. In Apple Podcast, you can do this by swiping left and giving it 5 stars. If you have a topic you'd like me to cover on the podcast, please send it to hello@thestayathome.nurse.com. In fact, if you have anything that you'd like to say, send it to hello@thestayathome.nurse.com. I love reading your feedback. Until next week, adios from beautiful Puerto Aventuras, Mexico.